Hello again, everybody. This is Rusty, aka William Robinson, aka Dr. Robinson, and I am the Blues Doctor. Welcome to the new updated version of my podcast, The Blues Doctor Recommends, and we're glad you're here. The Blues Doctor likes to address healthcare's messy questions, the uncomfortable questions that most other analysts and podcasters don't want to tackle because it doesn't fit their bias necessarily. In contrast, we want to take on those questions. We want to take on the hard ones that are not clear cut. I like to review as much information as I can before making a decision, and then I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to tell you what my thoughts really are. And I don't neatly fit into a left wing, right wing category. So the decisions that I come to may be a little surprising to you. At any rate, please sit back, like and subscribe, share, hit the bell, thumbs up, and tell us where you are and when you're listening to this, and then we'll get started. This is the seventh and probably next to last episode of our series on who killed healthcare in the US. Because the answer to that question is so broad, we've broken it down to several smaller, more specific questions each week. In our last episode, for example, we asked the question, how much money should doctors and nurses make? And I basically acknowledged that American doctors and nurses make more money than their counterparts in the rest of the Western world, and that this difference does contribute, at least some, to the extreme cost of healthcare in the US. Healthcare would probably be slightly less expensive if doctors and nurses made less money. As you might guess, I got some pushback from my doctor colleagues about that statement. Many of the doctors who commented argued that their salaries had much less impact on the high cost of health care than does the salaries of hospital and insurance company managers. And they are correct. There are many, many more hospital and insurance managers than there are physicians. And they have far more control over the prices of all the things required for healthcare than doctors do, by far. We've already done an episode on insurance, so now let's look at hospital management. Did you know that the number of mid level managers has exploded in the last 30 years or so? To the point that there are 10 times as many managers in American hospitals as compared to their German counterparts and other healthcare systems in the Western world. We've discussed parts of this before, but the basic cause is that healthcare is very different from most other businesses that middle managers work for. Let's examine middle management as a profession first. Middle managers typically have little or no practical work experience coming out of grad school. And for entry level healthcare jobs, experience is just invaluable. Number two, middle managers need strong mentors, even more than physicians do, often because they've had so little practical experience. Residency and fellowship programs in healthcare are, in fact, on the job training for physicians. There is nothing like that for most MBA programs in healthcare, and yet we expect them to function at the same professional level and interact with physicians on a professional basis. Number three, young middle managers or those from other fields may not understand or appreciate that the healthcare system moves much more slowly than most other businesses with large organizational charts. Managers who expect the system to move faster generate resistance and antagonism. Between all of these issues, there's more turnover among middle managers in healthcare than in any other business field. In general, the mantra at business schools is that the more complex a business is, the more valuable middle managers are. In light of that, let's look at how healthcare has become more complicated, regulated, and litigated in the US as compared to the rest of the developed world. Here are several examples. One, the introduction of HIPAA, are the Health Information Privacy and Protection Act of 1996. This act, while perhaps well intended, had the consequence of adding layers of oversight to the existing system. And most analysts agree that the benefits of HIPAA have been meager at best. Most hospitals and other healthcare facilities have had to add staff simply to access records from other facilities because they're worried about doing something illegal under HIPAA. The most obvious result of HIPAA has been that it's become much more difficult to gain access to information from outside your own system, which is critical because most American patients are cared for at multiple systems over the course of their lifetime by no choice of their own. Number two has been the introduction of electronic health records or electronic medical records, EMRs. All U.S. healthcare facilities were required to convert from paper to electronic records around 2010 or so, and that process has proven to be incredibly complex and time consuming. Virtually every hospital had to bring in large numbers of outside consultants to install the software and to train the staff. If you were there, you will recall how much pushback and outright resentment there was to this, particularly among physicians, in response to being told that they were suddenly required to dedicate 40 to 60 work hours to learning the new system, for which they would not be paid. Then, after the EMRs were installed, it quickly became obvious that additional staff would be required to maintain these complex systems. And again, just to communicate with other EMRs. See, it turned out that every individual hospital bought their own EMR and made significant financial outlays to do so. And those EMR systems were all proprietary. In other words, they do not necessarily talk to each other by design. Each company in each hospital protects its own software investment. The result is that it's even harder now to share information between facilities, which is ironic because the EMR concept was sold as being a means of facilitating communication. EMRs are going to make information transfer easier than ever. In fact, it's usually just the opposite. So, even more staff are required to manage crosstalk between EMRs. And third, and this one will generate some controversy within my own specialty of gynecologic oncology. Robotic surgery was touted by its developers as being vastly superior to any other technique, including traditional open surgery or laparoscopic or minimally invasive surgery. Surgical robots were even sold to the public as a Star Trek-like advanced technology. Large amounts of money were invested as every community hospital out there wanted its own robot to market to the community. And each robot cost $1 to $2 million. And each robot required additional dedicated staff from the manufacturer to be present in the operating room whenever the robot was in use. And that's because local hospital staff were untrained in managing it. So that's another level of staff required. We can argue about the real value of the robot, but that will be for another episode. So all of those innovations in healthcare required additional management in order to work as intended, which leads us back to our question. How many middle managers do we truly need? If you ask doctors, they will almost uniformly say far fewer than we currently have. But is that correct? I'm not so sure. Middle managers handle frontline staffing issues that involve nurses and technicians and security, maintenance, etc., etc. Middle managers also handle billing, collections, and accounting. I suspect very few doctors want to do those things. Middle managers also deal with insurance companies on a day-to-day basis. I can guarantee doctors don't want to do that. But there are hospital roles for which doctors would be better suited for than managers, one being innovation. Remember a few weeks ago when I suggested that healthcare was on a spectrum, somewhere between being a right on one side and a commodity on the other. Middle managers have far less understanding of the human components of healthcare than physicians. Therefore, doctors are in a much better position to represent the right side of the equation, or the human side, while top level management represents the commodity side. Doctors could and should be the innovators at hospitals, and they should work together with top level management to make decisions. They should bring ideas to top management where they can be discussed openly and professionally. Unfortunately, in too many hospitals, top management looks at physicians as cost centers who do nothing but complain, which generates resentment from the physicians. Middle managers fit into that space and they take most of the heat from both sides. If we could get past the animosity between top management and physicians that seems to be almost built in modern healthcare systems, I suspect many middle manager positions would be obsolete. Finally, and this may be the elephant in the room, the rise of artificial intelligence, or AI. It's been predicted that AI will eliminate many human jobs, but which ones will they be? It won't be the skilled jobs, everything from plumbers and electricians all the way up to doctors and nurses won't be replaced by AI because those jobs all require hands-on activity. Maybe someday, but AI as we know it now can't do those things. What AI can do is virtually all of the work that middle managers currently do. Without question, middle management is the job category that is most vulnerable to replacement by AI. And I can imagine doctors and nurses all over the country celebrating at the thought of middle managers going away. I would certainly be tempted to myself. But what role will AI play as a substitute? We really don't know. We may find out that we want some of those human managers back again. We are close to completing the series, Who Killed Healthcare in the U.S., and I hope you've enjoyed it. We're going to continue to address healthcare in other ways on this channel, and we invite your feedback. If there is a specific topic you'd like us to consider, feel free to let us know in the comments. And if I've made a substantive error in any of this, please feel free to let me know, and I'll try to correct it in a subsequent episode. We've got some fun new clips this week. The doctor and his staff have attended music clubs in both New Orleans and the Alabama Gulf Coast this week, so we've included a little bit from each. that's about all we have this week. We are considering the addition of some new topics to the show, perhaps along musical lines. Plus, we have some important family concerns to address in the next few weeks, which might interfere with our regular schedule. But we will keep you informed of any changes we need to make. Anyway, as I usually say at this point, please watch next week's podcast. Okay? See you later.